Hi everyone and welcome to the fourth live cooking workshop. Today I'm gonna show a chicken curry because the topic of today is dinner. And along the way I will talk about some healthy lifestyle and healthy eating topics as well. So if you're new to the workshop today, my name is Emma van Dan, and with my own business, My Health Target, I'm going to deliver these cooking workshops this month together with YCA Sandwell. So before we start with the cooking, I just want to double check if you can hear me all right. There is a chat box here in the corner of your screen. So if you have like any troubles with hearing me or seeing me, or you have any questions in general about healthy eating or about the recipe, you can put that into the chat box as well, and I will get back to you along the way with the cooking. Okay, so I'm going to start with the chicken curry. If you are cooking along with me, make sure that you've read the online document that I put into the description. It just shows a few bullet points to make sure that you keep yourself safe in the kitchen. Because we are working with sharp knives, with hot equipment. Sometimes we work with some sensitive food products as well, like raw egg or raw chicken. And it's important that we make sure that we keep ourselves healthy and safe. Okay, so with the curry today, what you will need if you're gonna make my style of chicken curry is 1 onion, a big white onion, chopped or pureed, whatever you prefer. You will use a courgette, a tomato, or 2 or 3, whatever you like. I also had half an aubergine left, so I'm gonna use that as well. It's quite nice in a chicken curry, but you don't have to. You can use your own vegetables as well if you want. You'll need half a chicken, chopped into small sizes, so perfect for the curry really, preferably with the bone in it as well, because it will give a lot more flavor to your curry as well. Then you also need some ginger, which can be fresh, chopped very finely, or a paste. You also need some garlic, which can also be chopped very tiny, or in a paste as well. Then I split my herbs in 2 different pots to make it a little bit more easy for myself and quicker. I got in the first jar, I got 3 bay leaves. You can see that, maybe not. 3 bay leaves. I got 3 cloves. I got a small piece of cinnamon, not too much. And I got 3 pieces of cardamom. So that's what I will need to start my curry with. And then later on, which will come with the chicken, you will see, I'm gonna add some more spices. So I have a teaspoon of turmeric, I got a teaspoon of chili powder, I got a teaspoon of cumin powder, a teaspoon of coriander powder, and if you want, you can also add a teaspoon of garam masala. And I'm gonna add some green chilies as well, 2 or 3, depending on how spicy you like your curry. I don't like it too hot, so I'm gonna keep it to 1.5 chilies. Okay, so I'm gonna start my curry with the base. So I'm gonna add some oil into it. It can be any vegetable oil. And I'm gonna add enough just to cover the bottom just slightly. A little bit more. Up. And what I tend to do is add a little bit of water to it as well. And I mix that through. And then I turn on the heating. So while this is heating up, I keep stirring this around as well, because when the oil and the water separates too much, it can cause little explosions in your pan. You don't really want that, because you don't want the oil going around. And to my oil, I'm gonna add the first jar of spices. So those are my bay leaves, my cloves, cardamom seeds, and my piece of cinnamon. So the goal here really is to get all the spices into the oil, so it becomes very flavorful. And it's a nice way to start your base with the curry. So I'm gonna give that a little bit of time. My fire is on medium high. And at some point you will notice as well that all the aromas come out of the pan and your kitchen starts to smell really nice. Good. So what I've done with my onion, like I pureed it, so it looks like a paste. You don't have to do it like this, but I prefer it like this because it's closer to like a paste and will sort of change the structure of my curry. And a lot more juice from the onion comes out as well. So that saves me some water to add in the pan and it's still very flavorful. And I also don't have to add like any extra oil because I don't want it like too high in fat. I want to keep it healthy. And everyone has their own style of chicken curry as well. Some people use a lot more herbs, some a little bit less. It's really what you prefer. I already start smelling all the herbs. So that's almost ready for the next stage. So I'm gonna get my ginger and garlic paste ready. I wanna use like a little bit less than a teaspoon each. And I'm gonna use my onion as well. Keep an eye on your herbs. You don't want the herbs start to burn. So you get the burnt flavor in your curry. Don't do that. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it a little bit lower the fire. I'm going to add my onion. So I've done this with the food processor. This may be a little bit lazy, instead of chopping up the onion into really tiny pieces. But honestly, the texture is really nice. So if you like to try that out, please do. Give that a little stir, turn the fire back a little bit higher. And I'm going to add my garlic and my ginger in it as well. I'm gonna give that a good stir. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of time to get all the flavors together. And you can add a little bit of water as well if you find that it's a little bit dry. So you can use some boiled water. Got some hot water ready already. So at the moment, I'm going to show it to you. It looks like this. So everything is mixed together, just needs to cook a little bit longer. So I'm going to add a tiny bit of water. Just a little bit. And I'm going to keep the lid on for now. And in the meantime, I'm going to chop up my tomato. You can use chopped tomatoes tinned as well if you want to. It gives a slightly different taste though, rather than using fresh ones. And by adding some fresh vegetables to it, you make it a little bit healthier as well, rather than plain chicken curry. And I've chosen courgette and aubergine as they are like really nice in a chicken curry, in my opinion. But you can also use some green pepper, for example. There are different combinations possible. So everything is smelling good, everything is bubbling. Flavors are getting together. I'm gonna give that a little bit longer. So with the chicken curry, you can add that with different things. You can eat it with plain rice, for example. You can also do like a combination of rice and dal or lentils. It's a really nice combination too. Also, when you add some lentils or dal into it, you kind of reduce the amount of rice that you eat as well. Sometimes it's not like the healthiest to have like loads of rice on your plate, but if you mix it with some dal or lentils, you increase the fibers in your rice, which is a very healthy thing to do. Plus, lentils and dal, they count towards our 5 a day as well, as they're very nutritious. And if you have prediabetes or are diabetic and you're choosing carbohydrates that your body takes in very slow, so your blood glucose rises very slow, you might actually want to do that because lentils and dal are very high in fibers and will reduce the GI index of the rice itself. So you can try that, and it's very tasty. It still smells a little bit raw, so I'm gonna give it a little bit more time. The curry normally takes some time for making it, but I found it definitely worth it because it's really tasty. And I'm gonna actually show you the rice that I've made. So I made some charota. So that's with the rice and the dal. And the herbs that I've used are very similar to the herbs that I've used as well for the curry. So we will come across all the herbs in a second as well. And I haven't used much salt in this one either, because all the herbs, they already make it very flavorful. Other types of rice you could use as well with some frozen beans, for example. Green peas can be very nice too in a rice, and you add some more vegetables and variation to your rice as well. Starting to smell better. So later on, if you want to, you can take out like the big pieces of herbs. Some people don't really like it when they get a plate with pieces of cardamom seeds or a piece of bay leaf in it. So you can take it out later. Personally, I'm not that bothered by it. Okay, so I'm gonna add my tomatoes. And they will break down along the way with the cooking. They give that nice little flavor to it, a little bit acidic. Okay, so I'm gonna start with chopping up my vegetables while I give the onion a little bit more time just to cook a little bit longer and get all the flavors out. So with the vegetables, I'm gonna make sure that these are quite chunky, quite big, because they will cook quite long in the pan. So you don't want it to break down. So if you keep it chunky, so big chunks of courgette, will keep it intact for longer. It will get very soft anyway, but it will stay together. And all the herbs will go into the vegetables, really tasty. So if you have a different style of making curry, let me know in the chat box. Maybe you do it completely different. Or maybe you have a few tips on what you like in your chicken curry. Or a different type of rice, or maybe you like chapati or something else with your curry. What are your favorites? Okay, got my vegetables ready. Okay, so now it's really turning into a really thick paste, and that's what I want. So it's not too dry, but it's also not very raw anymore. You can smell that too with the herbs. That it sort of becomes like one nice aroma. So I'm gonna add my chicken. Opa. Make sure these are chopped up really small. The bone is still on. So I'm gonna make sure that all the paste is like around my chicken. Give it a good stir. And then I'm just gonna put the lid on top and let it cook for a while. Okay, so I got everything here ready. Also the herbs for later on. So I want to add the next set of herbs once the chicken turns gray and the meat is soft and like almost done. Then I want to add the second pot of herbs. And then I can add my vegetables as well. And then I will add some water. So it can cook for like around 20 to 30 minutes, roughly around that time, until the water is cooked to about like a third. The third is left. So it will still look very juicy, but all the flavors are now more concentrated and the chicken is ready. And then you can serve it with your rice or with your chapati. So keep an eye on it, that the bottom doesn't burn. And also for the end, I have some fresh herbs, some fresh parsley, to make it look a little bit prettier, and it tastes quite nice as well. So with the chilies, you can choose to keep it intact, or you can cut them open. So if you cut them in half, the seeds will come out as well, and it makes it more spicy. So if you're not really into the spicy curries at all, just keep them whole. Still gives a really nice flavor. No. And before I forget, this is also a stage where you can add a little bit of salt into your curry. You don't want to do that too late. So I'm gonna add like roughly half a teaspoon of salt to start. And I will add a little bit more later on when I add the water as well. But I don't want to start off with too much salt because there's no way back. Once you've done too much, it's really hard to get back from that. And it's just really to flavor the curry. So keep the lid on top. I'm just going to check if there are any comments. So just a sec. So that's a question about the rice and the lentils. So yes, I do cook them together. Basically how I made it, I washed the rice and the dal first. So for like 3 or 4 people, this dish is also for roughly 3 or 4 people. You're gonna use 2 cups of rice. I use this cup to measure it out. 2 cups of basmati rice and 1 cup of lentils. So red dal, that's what I've used. I washed it and let it soak for a little bit. Then I got my herbs ready, which is very similar to what I've done here as well. So I started with some oil. I added my 2 bay leaves. I've added 2 cardamom seeds and 2 pieces of cloves and a small piece of cinnamon. So it's very similar as how I did it here, with a little bit of water, a little bit of oil, and I cooked it and made sure that the oil got like all the aromas in it. Then I've added my ginger and garlic paste, so like half a teaspoon each, not too much. You don't want to use like as many spices as you would with the curry, because otherwise you're kind of stealing the thunder of the curry. The curry is like the star of the plate in that sense, and it needs to be like a nice flavor, nice color, the rice. So once that's done, you also add your half an onion, chopped very small or pureed like I did. And once that's cooked and creates like a really nice paste, you can add your rice and your dal into it dry. And you're gonna keep stirring that and make it dry. So you're frying it basically in the paste. And it will take a few minutes, but you will notice that it becomes quite dry. And you hear it like sizzling on the bottom of the pan as well, like small pops. And then you know that it's time to add the water in. So because I used 2 cups of rice and 1 cup of dal, I used double the amount of water. So then you give that another stir. Don't forget to add all the other ingredients as well. Before you add the water, you mix in the cucumber, half a teaspoon of chili powder, half a teaspoon of cumin powder, half a teaspoon of coriander powder, and you can add a chili in there as well if you like it spicy. And then basically you add the water into there and you're gonna let it cook until the water is evaporated and you got a nice dry rice. So you can try that out if you want to. So the chicken is starting to look really good. But it's not quite there yet. So I'm gonna give it a little bit longer. So now it looks like quite white, but I want to give it more color even. And then at some point where you start stirring, you notice that the chicken slowly comes off from the bone. So you know that the chicken is ready, and then you add the rest of the spices to it. So with curries, a lot of people would add salt to their curry. I know that with like healthy eating, we should be very careful with the amount of salt that we use, mainly because there are already many foods in our diet that already contain salt. And a lot of people suffer from high blood pressure, and there are other like related health issues that come along with that. So the NHS does recommend us to keep it very limited, our salt intake. Like the recommendation for salt would be a teaspoon of salt per person every day. But there's a but to it. per teaspoon would be like 2/3 would already be in the food that we have. So some foods that we don't even realize have salt, like bread, chapati, some breakfast cereals, cheese, olives. Like there are a lot of food that already have salt in them. So that only leaves us like 1/3 of a teaspoon, like literally a pinch, that we can have every day. So that makes it a lot more challenging to, yeah, not add any salt to our foods. So that would be recommended on the NHS website as well. Like you don't have to add salt to your food. But because with the curry, like loads of us would add salt to it, it would be unrealistic to say like just cut out all the salt in our curry. More realistic would be to slowly reduce the amount of salt. So if you're really used to like having 5 teaspoons of salt in your curry, a goal could be to slowly reduce that every week or every month, just with a little bit less, so you would barely notice, and your family would not notice either. It's just a little bit less. And if you do that gradually over the months or over the weeks, you would reach like a very little salt at some point and still appreciate what you cook. Because if we do that cold turkey, like no salt, while you used 5 teaspoons of salt, it's just a really big difference in taste, and people don't necessarily like that. So if you do it gradually, that would be more realistic. And also with my curry, this is roughly for 4 people. So the salt that I've added in here, you divide that by 4 as well. So overall, it would not be like really high. So if you guys got any questions about salt, like any products that might contain salt, or other tips on how to reduce salt, or maybe you have any advice for other people, put that in the chat box. I'm just gonna check if anybody responded. Yeah, that's a really good question. A question came in about like other types of salt. So, for example, Himalaya salt or Celtic salt, for example, there are different types out there. The difference between all of them really is where it is sourced. So, if you got like table salt, that comes from the sea, and it has been washed as well because the sea is quite polluted. So they wash the salt. So instead of like having gray salt, it becomes nice and white. But not everyone really appreciates that, because as you are washing, you will use chemicals and a lot of minerals will be actually taken out of the salt. But if you have Celtic salt or Himalaya salt, which comes from the mountains, they don't wash it because they don't need to. So you keep more minerals in the salt. So in that sense, you would think, okay, that salt is healthier. But it doesn't mean that you can use more of it, because salt is salt at the end of the day. You cannot have more than a teaspoon of salt on a daily basis. So don't think you can have more. So, starting to look really good. I'm quickly going to show it to you, how mine is going to look like. So it's not quite done yet, but as you can see, like everything is becoming one, and the chicken is turning into a nice color. It's still thick paste, it's still liquid enough, and the tomatoes are completely broken down. They will become like one with the paste as well. Just add a little bit of acidity to it as well. Some people use chopped tomatoes in tin. You can use that as well, but it's a little bit more acidic. So it really depends on your taste. So would you personally add more salt into your curry or in other foods? You can leave that into the chat box if you want. So also with my rice that I made, there's a little bit of salt added to that as well, just a tiny bit. But that counts in the total meal as well. So we have to consider that too. Or if we add like some naan bread or anything else, there can be salt in there too. So we need to take that into consideration. The good thing is like with like a lot of products that you can get from the supermarket, they will show like a food traffic light label on the product. So you can actually see if it is very high in salt, but also if it's high in fat or high in sugar. So you can see like the colors on front as well. So if it shows it's red, it means it's high in one of those ingredients. If it's orange, would be like in the middle. And if it's green, it means that it's low in those ingredients. So they show those 3 ingredients mainly because those are the ones you need to be careful with. If you have too much of those too often, it can lead to some health problems over the years. And even if you use some of them that have some red or have some orange in them, doesn't mean that you have to avoid it all at once. You kind of need to use your common sense as well. Like, is there anything healthy about this product? Like, for example, nuts and seeds. If you look at the traffic light label, they will be classified as red when it comes to fat. But they're very nutritious. There are loads of good nutrients in nuts and seeds. So it just means like, yes, I can have them, but not like the whole bag because that would be too much. But like a handful, like what fits in your palm, there will be like a portions of nuts and seeds. And you can have that on a daily basis. And it counts towards your protein as well. So they're really good for you. Always have to be patient with the curry. Like in the meantime, normally you can chop up any vegetables or do like some dishes so you don't have to worry about it later. Or maybe you want to cook your rice, for example. That could also be an opportunity. We will be adding like water later on, so it will cook on for like 20 or 30 minutes. So you have plenty of time to cook like your own rice at that point as well. Still looking good. And now I really notice that my meat is getting soft. It's slowly getting off the bone. And it's still moist enough, that's good. So with water, you kind of don't want to add it like too often. And also not too late because it will dilute the flavor. So you need to be careful with when you're gonna add that. The same is for the herbs and the salt as well. You don't want to add that too late, especially when it's like dried herbs like these ones, because it has a very raw smell, raw flavor, and it needs time to sort of mix with the water and mix with the foods and really get the most out of them. So you want to do that on the correct time. So with these herbs, if you don't have any vegetables with your chicken curry, you kind of want to use a little bit less than this because I am bulking my curry out with extra vegetables. So you might want to use a little bit less if that's the case for you. I'm just going to quickly check if there are any comments. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so somebody mentioned that she reduced her salt intake as well from very young age. So that's good. When you are already used to a low salt intake, you will not really miss it. So that's the good thing. Once you're used to it, you actually don't appreciate the super salty foods anymore. And that's why our opinions differ as well between people. So some are used to very salty curry, others don't, and they don't really appreciate each other's curries that way. So if you slightly change that bit by bit, you will change your palate as well. And if you give like no or very little salt to your kids, you will already build up that type of palate not to have too much salt in their diet. Okay, so the chicken is slowly coming off the bone. So I know it's time for the rest of the ingredients. So I'm gonna add the rest of my spices with the chili, everything. I'm gonna give that a good mix. Make sure you grab all the onion at the edges of the pan as well. So if you haven't boiled some water yet, this is a good chance to do that, because we will do that any moment. And also here, once you've added your spices, you can judge if it's enough or not. So you can see that at the color. If it's like very yellow and you want it more spicy, you might want to add some more chili powder. You can smell and just judge if you want it a little bit different, because this is the moment where you can actually change that. You don't want to add it later on. And if it's very strong, that's normal, because we are going to dilute it with water as well. So this is the base, and it needs to be very flavorful. Okay, I'm going to add my vegetables to it. So I've got a big pot of curry now. I'm gonna make sure that all of these vegetables have like a nice layer of the curry on it as well. So at the moment, before I add any water, my curry looks like this. So everything is mixed together. I like the color, I like the smells as well, so I'm not going to add any more herbs to it. Then I'm gonna add my boiled water, and I'm gonna make sure that everything is underwater and has like space to sort of move around. So plenty of water, so it has some time to boil it down. I'm gonna do this bit by bit, just to check. Get like all the paste from the edges as well, so they can mix in the water. I'm gonna add some more. So just enough that the chicken and everything is underwater, and my vegetables will float up, but they have like space to sort of move around. So I'm just gonna add slightly more. So it's easy to stir it around. I'm gonna give you a quick look at how that looks like. So everything is underwater. I don't want to add too much water because that will dilute all the flavors. But I'm happy with this. I'm gonna add the lid on, and my fire will stay on like medium high. So we're going to boil it down now, and that will take like between 20 to 30 minutes. So make sure you keep an eye on it, that nothing is burning at the bottom. Give it a stir and keep checking until it reaches a point where you're like, I like this consistency with my rice or whatever else you're cooking it with. Okay, so what I wanted to show you while this is boiling down, with the topic of today, I wanted to briefly talk about the Eatable Guide. So maybe you've seen this one before. With one of my workshops a few weeks ago, I've discussed this with the ladies only group as well. So you might find this familiar. So basically the Eatable Guide is a plate which shows 5 different food groups that we need on a daily basis in order to get like all the different nutrients and things out of it. Things like our carbohydrates that we need for energy, protein that we need for our muscles and bones, and also fat for healthy bodily functions, hormones and things. So we do need all three of them. And also other nutrients like vitamins, minerals like calcium or iron. Those things we need in our diet in order to function normally and maintain a healthy body and brain. So this is made by the Health Department of England, and it shows like a balance of all the food groups. And the thing is, this guide is kind of based on English foods. So if you have like another cultural background, try to place like your own type of ingredients in this plate as well, and you can roughly aim for that balance as well. So for example, a third of our diet should exist of fruit and vegetables. So having plenty of fruit and vegetables in our diet is a very healthy thing to do. Not only because of all the vitamins and minerals, but it's very high in fibers and water as well, and are quite low in calories. So they're quite good for us. Then there's a third that is consistent of carbohydrates, like starchy foods. So that would be bread, that can be rice, potatoes, porridge and other cereals, pasta if you cook with those ingredients. Couscous come into this category too. So preferably you would go for ingredients that are high in fiber. So wholemeal bread, wholemeal chapati, wholemeal couscous, brown bread if you have any. Because fibers are really, really healthy for us and keeps you a bit fuller as well for longer. So instead of eating like 2 plates of dinner, if you have more fibers to it, you might eat a little bit less because you feel fuller. So we tend not to overeat in that sense. Then the pink one is our protein section. So there would be meat and fish and eggs, but also beans and legumes would fall under this category. So these are the beans and legumes are very high in fibers too and very nutritious. Some say that they kind of fall into the fruit and vegetable sections as well, as they will count towards your fruit and vegetable intake. So that's quite handy, and they're a good source of protein as well. Nuts and seeds fall into this category too, or tofu, things like this, tempeh. So it doesn't have to come from animal products all the time. You don't have to. You can be vegetarian or vegan and still have sources of protein. Then there's the blue section. So that's your dairy. So here comes like your calcium, for example, and other vitamins as well that we need. So milk, yogurt, cheese, but also plant-based milks like soy milk, rice milk, almond milk, oat milk. They would count in this section too. So if you do go for the milk replacements like almond milk or soy milk, try to go for the fortified ones. So there's extra minerals and vitamins added to get a little bit closer to what milk has to offer as well. And try to go for the unsweetened one, because there are sweetened plant-based milks out there as well. But it would make it a little bit less healthier in that sense. Same also for yogurts. Try to go for like a plain yogurt. Don't really go for the flavored ones because they add like extra sugar to it. So if you go for strawberry yogurt, for example, or vanilla yogurt, they will add extra sugar to it and makes it less healthy. So alternatives that you can do, like one of my favorites, what I've shown during my breakfast workshop as well, is to add a little bit of orange juice into it, like fresh orange juice, a squeeze, like a few tablespoons. Mix that together and you got a really nice, tasty, orangey yogurt like that. So you could do that for desserts or for breakfast or snacks as well. So are different ways possible to reduce that sugar amount. And if you go for like low fat or high fat yogurt, it kind of depends on how much you eat. So if you eat loads of yogurt, you might want to go for a lower fat option. But if you don't like low fat yogurt, if you go for a little bit of full fat yogurt, that's fine as well. At the end of the day, it's all about the portion size and how often you eat it as well. And then the last food group, which we might overlook, is this purple one. So that's our oils and spreads. So like olive oil, for example, or other vegetable oils. They would count in this section, and it's so small, because we only need it in like a tiny amount, it still provides us with some healthy nutrients and certain vitamins and healthy fats that we need on a daily basis. But you need to be careful with how much you use because it's still very high in calories. And there's fat in other food products as well. So for example, with a protein, if we go for meat, for example, there's fat in meat. If we go for nuts and seeds, there are some fats in nuts and seeds as well. So finding the balance in your whole foods and keeping your spreads and oils to a small amount, we are able to achieve quite a balanced diet like that. So I'm just going to take a look at my curry. See how that is going. That is looking good. Give it a little stir. My kitchen starts to smell like really nice now. Getting hungry now. Let me see if there are like any comments. No, not yet. Okay. So just to finish this eat well guide, like you might have noticed some information in the corners as well. So here in this cheeky corner, there are the additional foods, like the extra foods. And those are foods that don't really belong in the eat well guide because they're not that healthy, but they are part of our diet. Like lots of people would have like some biscuits or some crisps or some chocolate because we enjoy it or we are celebrating something. So it is part of our diet, but it doesn't really have a place in that balanced diet, like in the food groups, because they don't really provide any nutrients that we need on a daily basis, but they're nice. So these are foods like ice cream, chocolate, cake, muffins, biscuits, but also sauces like ketchup sauce or mayonnaise, things like that. We sometimes use that in our diet, but they don't provide us with like any essential nutrients. And the downside is they contain quite a lot of calories most of the time. Most of them are high in salt, sugar, or fat, or all three of them. So this needs to be taken into moderation. So sometimes and not too much. So here in the other corner, this one, is our water intake. So in a balanced lifestyle and a healthy diet, we need to drink enough water as well. So between like 6 to 8 glasses a day for women and 8 to 10 for men will be like a healthy amount of water to drink. Good thing is there's plenty of water in our fruit and vegetables as well, so that adds up too. And things like tea, coffee, some milk counts as well towards our hydration, but you should not drink like 1.5 liter of those things, as water is like the best thing you can have. And if you don't like water, you can use like some sugar-free squash, or you can add some ginger into your water. Herbal tea is fine as well. So there are ways around it. And on this corner, you see like the food traffic light label. So we briefly discussed this as well. So it looks like that. So you see the colors green, orange, and red for the fat, salt, and sugar intake. So if there's anything that you are watching out for in the supermarket, you can use that as well. Some products don't contain a traffic light label, unfortunately, but there's an app called the Food Scanner app from Change for Life. And if you scan the barcode, it will actually show you the traffic light label and also tell you if it's too high in certain ingredients. So you can make a healthier choice that way. So there are ways around it as well. So I'm going to give that another stir. Okay, so I'm going to give this a brief test with the salt as well to see if that was all right, because I already used half a teaspoon in it, but it might not be enough. So it can use some more salt. Be careful with this as well, because the water will reduce. So the salt will become stronger as the water will vaporize. So I'm going to use roughly teaspoon extra. So if you think about it, for 4 people, this would be like half a teaspoon of salt each in that way. So I'm just stirring it carefully because some of the vegetables are cooking soft and I don't want to break them. Give that another taste. To my taste, it's already salty enough. Like I'm not very much on salt like when I'm cooking, so I taste the salt quite quick. But if you're used to more salt, you can do that. But keep in mind, like try to add like a little bit less than usual, and see if you can taste the difference, or if your family can taste the difference. Just slightly less, and do that like every time. Just a tiny pinch less without noticing, and you will change that palate, your taste for salt. And then once somebody serves your curry with the amount of salt that you used to use, you will not like it that much anymore. It's too salty, you become too sensitive for it. So it's funny how our palate works. It can really adjust with what you're doing, and it becomes a new habit. The same is for sugar as well. We can slowly reduce the sugar intake in our drinks, for example. So if you make tea or coffee and you're used to putting like 3 teaspoons or 3 cubes of sugar into it, by just reducing that slightly, just a little bit less every week in your tea or in your coffee, you will not taste it, and you gradually reduce it to maybe half a teaspoon at some point. And that's a healthy change, going from 3 teaspoons all the way to half a teaspoon. And you reduce the amount of calories as well, and it's a bit healthier for your teeth too. So with the Eat Well guide, sometimes it's a bit confusing to understand like what are the portion sizes. Like with the Eat Well guide, it shows roughly like how much we can use by showing like a big chunk. So if this is 100% of what you eat every day, a third of it should exist of fruit and vegetables. Or another recommendation that out there is like 5 a day. So 5 fruit and vegetables all together, preferably 3 portions of vegetables and 2 portions of fruit. Because the vegetables have like less sugars in them as well, and still very rich in nutrients. Frozen and tinned count as well, by the way. A third of our diet can exist of like starchy foods. If your doctor or health professional or diabetic nurse told you to reduce this, then yeah, stick to their plan as well. Some people might reduce this because of medication, like diabetic medication, for example, or they need to lose some weight. They would reduce this slightly. But it's not recommended to completely leave carbohydrates out when it comes to a healthy lifestyle, because you still need the nutrients and the energy that comes from here. So it's by picking the right types of carbohydrates and also the amount compared with all the other foods that we have. So a smaller piece would be protein. Doesn't always have to be from meat and fish. Can be beans and lentils, chickpeas, dal. That counts as well. A smaller bit of our dairy, which can be plant-based, and just a tiny bit of oil. So that would be only like 2 teaspoons or something a day, which is not very big. So also with that, we can control that and how much we use on a daily basis. So I see another question coming through. Okay, good. So I'm happy that those tips for drinking more water helps. Actually, I'm going to redo another workshop this Saturday. Last week, Wednesday, I did a workshop on snacks and drinks. But the camera was a little bit choppy, so I want to do that over to make it look a bit more comfortable. And I'm going to do that Saturday, so maybe other people can join in as well. It's a weekend day for a change. I will do that at 12 o'clock, but keep an eye on the Facebook website of YCA Sandwall, or maybe you found this video from Let's Talk Hope. And I will do like 2 different types of teas. So I'm going to make a lemon tea, and I'm going to make a milky mint tea. And I'm going to show like how you can make some healthy drinks without adding like a lot of sugar to it. So you're more than welcome to join that one as well. Just keep an eye on the Facebook websites. So when it comes to like portion sizes, with fruit and vegetables, with your carbohydrates, with your protein, it's slightly different. So I'm gonna do a quiz and explain along the way how a portion size would look like with each of those food groups. So for example, the first one, do you think it's true or false? 1 glass of grapefruit juice counts towards my 5 a day. So small glass, do you think that would count as a fruit in a healthy diet or not? I'm gonna give a little bit of time. So 1 glass of grapefruit juice, would that count towards our 5 a day? Let me see if I got any answers. Not yet, but I'm gonna give you the answer anyway. So if you thought that it counts, that's true. Like grapefruit juice or any fruit juice counts towards our 5 a day, but we have to be careful with how much we use as well, and if there's any added sugar to it. Like fruit juice is already quite high in like natural sugars, but we have to make sure that we don't drink too much of it. So a whole bottle, like 500 ml, would be a bit too much, like too much sugar. But if we have a small glass, it's actually quite all right, and it counts for all like fruit juices, orange juice, grapefruit juice, all those types of drinks. So another question, a small pot of yogurt that you can get from the supermarket would count towards 1 portion of dairy. Is that true or is that false? So if you thought that was true, it is true. It counts towards a portion of our dairy. So it would count like as 4 or 5 like tablespoons of yogurt. Or if you got like a big pot, like the 500 ml pot, if you go for like a quarter of the jar, that will be a portion of your dairy. So yeah, good. Another one, question 3. A whole watermelon would count towards my fruit and vegetables. That would be 1 portion of fruit. Do you think it's true or false? So you can think about like other fruits as well, like how big would a portion be? Would the whole watermelon count? It's a bit too much, like a slice of watermelon, that would be a portion, but the whole thing, that would be too much. With fruit in general, we don't want to eat like too much fruit throughout the whole day. Although fruit is considered to be very healthy, you don't want to eat like fruit like the whole time, as they are quite high in natural sugars. So be careful with how much fruit you have. Watermelon is a healthy choice though, but moderation and variation is always key, also with fruit and vegetables. So next one, peanut butter counts as dairy. Is that true or false? So the dairy section would be like the blue one, peanut butter. Would that count or not? So peanut butter is a bit tricky because it says butter, but it's definitely not a dairy product. It is actually protein. Like with some peanut butters, some of them would add palm oil, salt, or sugar, but you actually don't have to. It can be 100% of peanuts. I think I got one in my closet here in my cupboard as well. Yeah, so this one, for example, would be like 100% peanuts, so you don't have to add like any oil, salt, or sugar to it. Just peanuts is just fine. And that would count towards your protein. Be careful with how much you use as well, because it is high in protein, but very nutritious. So you can use that in a healthy, balanced diet as well. So next one, 4 tablespoons of cooked beans would count towards my protein. Is that true or false? So there can be chickpeas, it can be red kidney beans, it can be lentils, it can be dal, any beans or legumes. Would that count towards my protein or not? So what I discussed with the protein section as well, so that pink section, that one. So as you can see, like beans and legumes would count as well. So yeah, that counts towards your protein intake. So next one, vegetables in a takeaway would count towards my fruit and vegetables. So do you think that's true or false? So for example, a vegetable pizza from a takeaway restaurant, for example. Would those vegetables count towards your 5 a day? Yes or no? Yeah, so I see someone saying true. It is true. It's still vegetables at the end of the day, no matter how it is prepared. It's still vegetables. So yes, it sounds a bit weird though, because most takeaways are quite unhealthy because they add like lots of salt or a lot of fat to it, or even sugar in some like sauces or dressings. So we need to be careful with that. But the vegetables still count in whatever way you're actually having it. And then we have one last question. 3 tablespoons of tinned pineapple counts towards my fruit and vegetables. So would that be a portion? Yes or no? It can be any tinned vegetable of tinned fruit. It can be like peaches you can get in tinned. The pineapple or like mixed fruits you can get in the tin as well. And some of them would have like a syrup in it. You can see that on the label as well, like put into syrup or light syrup or in fruit juice. Try to go for the fruit juice as it will be lower in sugar. But overall, tinned fruits would be just as healthy as fresh fruits. Same for frozen, it would be the same. So if you think about 3 tablespoons of pineapple, that would be true. That's a portion of fruit. Yeah. Good. So you can add that to, for example, yogurt and some low sugar granola, and then you got like some carbohydrates, some dairy, and you also got some fruits. Maybe you want to add a little bit of nuts to it, so you got some protein too. So that's how you try to combine like all those food groups into your meals and finding like a healthy balance between them. So I can already see that the water is like vaporizing. And the vegetables are nice and soft. The chicken should be getting really tender now. But it needs a little bit more time to get a little bit thicker and get that consistency that I like with the curry. Some people like it a little bit more watery, other people a little bit drier. So it really depends on how you like your curry. So what I did with the rice, by adding some dal, I am replacing some of the carbohydrates, so the rice, with some protein in that way. So you're adding like another food group to it into your rice and balancing like the amount of carbohydrates out. So if you really like rice and you don't want to have like a tiny portion, you want to have a little bit more, you could replace some of that rice with dal. That could be a healthy idea. Another idea, what I've made as well here, is a salad. So you can add like a side salad with it as well. Whatever salad you like. Like I made a very basic one. Just chopped up some cucumbers and some tomatoes and a little bit of parsley. And to make it a little bit more tasty, I've added some lemon as well, half lemon. You can add some chili if you like that, or other different things with salad. You can do whatever you like. Some people would cut out like the seeds from the tomatoes or from the cucumber, but I keep it because I don't want to waste any food. So I'm just keeping it, and I don't mind keeping it a little bit more watery. So I'm gonna cut up a few more vegetables to make my salad a little bit bigger. So that way I am bulking out my meal as well. So I got plenty of food on the plate, but there are just loads of vegetables, which are healthy to have. Some people with salads, they add dressings, like ready-made dressings you can get from the supermarket. But a lot of dressings, they have a lot of sugar and oil to it, even if it doesn't taste that sweet. Like quite often they do add sugar into the dressing. So you got like some white dressings, which are quite often mayonnaise based. And yeah, they're just really high in calories. So if you make your own dressing, like if you want to make a white dressing, for example, you can use some yogurt and some lemon and some fresh herbs. And you can do it like that as well. And so, just a few more cucumber. I tend to slice like in small blocks. But you can cut it up in whatever way you like. Another idea what you can do with salads as well, if you want to add like a variation of vegetables, is to grate some carrot. So you make that really small, and just that gives a little bit of variation to your salads as well. So I've already added my lemon into this. So this is my side salad that I'm gonna add on the side with my curry too. Just to make sure that there's like plenty of food. And because curry is so nice, like you kind of want to have that second serving. So if you make sure that you got like enough of the other healthy foods as well, you tend not to eat like too much or overeat when you make like curry, for example, or any other nice dishes. Like one of my weaknesses is lasagna, for example. I love lasagna, but yeah, there's always a too much. You cannot have 3 plates, for example. Okay, so it should be getting close to done. It's still very liquid, so I'm gonna keep the lid off so more water can escape. So I get that consistency that I want. It's still too wet. So in the meantime, I'm gonna show you how I would set up my plate. So with a lot of meals, if you want to have like a balanced meal on your plate, it can be a little bit difficult when you think about the eatable guide, like all those like quarters and halves. And so if you set up your plate, you could do like half of your plate to fill up with vegetables. So there are some vegetables in this curry, there are some vegetables in this salad as well. So I'm getting plenty of vegetables. A quarter of your plate should exist of protein. And then a quarter of your plate should exist of like starchy carbohydrates. So that can be your rice, your naan bread, or anything else that you're adding. I'm gonna start with my rice first. So I'm gonna do roughly a quarter of the rice. No. It has been cooling down for a little bit. So like roughly a quarter. I'm gonna add some salad, and there are some vegetables in my curry as well, so you don't really have to put like half a plate of salad into it. And then I will add my curry as well. So I already filled up like half of the plate with like the other food groups in that sense, and once the curry is done, I will add that as well. Good, so the last topic really that I wanted to discuss for this workshop is about like health in general. So sometimes we think about like that food is like the main thing to focus on when it comes to health, but there are like many other factors that are important when it comes to maintaining a healthy lifestyle. So if you think about the definition of health, there is a definition of health. That will be that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So that's quite a sentence, but that basically means that health is not really defined by if you have like a long-term health condition, for example, or you've got a physical disability. It doesn't define your health. It's like a balance of everything in your life. So not only being physically well, but also feeling well, so emotionally well, and feeling socially well as well. So feeling connected with your family, your community, your friends, and it plays a big important role as well in maintaining a healthy lifestyle. So if you think about physical well-being, yes, that's our body itself, keeping it healthy and strong. Also the amount of exercise you can do, walking counts, swimming, cycling, but also household and playing with the kids all counts towards physical activity. And also what we eat plays a very important role. Having a balanced diet, like many of the topics we discussed over the last few weeks as well. Then our mental well-being, so our emotional well-being, how we feel plays a big important role in our overall health as well. And they are sort of in balance with each other as well. If we feel connected with other people, we feel like we can talk with other people, we make sure that our body is healthy and strong as well. We support our mental well-being that way too. And feeling strong, feeling resilient with the changes and things that are happening in our life. And changes happen all the time in our life. So being resilient helps too. And then social well-being, feeling connected with other people, having good relationships and a good network. So if there's anything that you need support with or other people, you got that social network ready to help you out. And we have a sense of belonging as well. So there's a strong connection with all three of them and not just merely one thing. Or if you have like a long-term health condition, that doesn't define your health either. So I see a comment as well. Someone likes to add like mint or tumac to the salad. Definitely, that's a really good one as well. Mint is one of my favorites. Good, I see really that the chicken is coming off the bone. So I'm gonna show it to you just quickly. So it looks quite liquidy. I would cook it a little bit further down, to be honest. So I'm gonna give it just a few more minutes and it should be done. And then I can show you how my plate would be at the very end. So if you have any questions, just drop it into the chat box. And this is like the ideal moment, as now we just have to patiently wait until the curry is done. I can't wait. So if you have any questions afterwards, or you are watching like a recording of this video, you can always contact me on my email address. So that's called info@myhealthtarget.co.uk. And you can take a look at my website as well. You can find my contact details there too. So that's on myhealthtarget.co.uk. I also maintain a Facebook and Instagram page. So you can contact me there as well. That's called @myhealthtarget. You can message me there, or you can post something. Maybe you can post your curry if you want to, or any other recipes that you've made. I would be very curious. And on those pages, I post regularly as well about healthy lifestyle. So things about healthy eating and recipes, but also things about exercise and also things about yoga. I'm a yoga instructor, and I try to see lifestyle as something holistic. So not just what we eat, and also not on how much or how intense we exercise, but also our emotional well-being and having everything in balance. Health is not just one thing, it's big. And sometimes when we want to make a lifestyle change, so let's say it is something with nutrition, like a nutritional change, there might be a lot of other things in our life that is happening, like something very stressful. Maybe you're going through a really rough time, or you started a new job, you have a very young family. Those things play a really important role as well in order to make those changes. So sometimes it can be really helpful to have like a lifestyle coach to help you out. Just gonna quickly check if there are any questions. Ah, somebody says they found yoga boring. I don't agree. There are like many different classes as well that you can follow. Sometimes you just have to try different yoga teachers because everyone is their own approach. Some yoga will be like very slow and really taking their time. Other yogas are more intensive and cost like a lot of energy and you start to sweat. Other yoga classes will be more about meditation, breathing, relaxation. So it's really finding like that right yoga teacher that fits you. And yoga can be very beneficial to your health, really. It really helps with relaxing the mind and the brain, especially in stressful events. If we have like any sleeping problems, yoga can help as well. Finding more concentration and focus on a daily basis, yoga can be very, very beneficial in that as well. So there are loads of yoga instructors online who do like classes on Zoom. On my YouTube channel, I actually have like a video there as well if you want to try it out. See if you like me as a yoga instructor. And in a few weeks' time, I will actually do a chair-based yoga class on YouTube live. So I will be posting about that on Facebook and Instagram as well. And it's a free class to introduce yoga to people. Also, if you're not really able to do yoga on the floor, this is based on a chair. And you can do yoga on a chair, which is still very enjoyable. So if you want, you're more than welcome to join. Just keep an eye out on like the YCA Facebook page or Let's Talk Hope or my own page at My Health Target. You can always message me as well if you have any questions. Okay, so I found the consistency now quite nice. So there's still a lot of liquid, but I don't mind. So if you want, and you want to cook a little bit further, you definitely can, but I'm quite happy with this one. Some people decide at this point to take like some of the herbs out so you don't have it on your plate. I honestly don't really mind. Okay, so I'm gonna add my curry now. Just gonna move the rice a little bit to the middle of the plate. I like it together really, instead of separate. So. So I've got a lot of nice juices. Gonna add a little bit of extra juice on it. So I really like the consistency of my curry. So as you can see here, hope you can see that all right. You can see I got some salad. I got like a portion of my rice and my dal. And then I topped it up with my chicken curry. Try not to tilt it too much. And the chicken is like nice and soft, coming off the bone. My vegetables are well cooked and the flavors are like all in there. So that will be like a nice plate for dinner or for lunch. And yeah, this is my style of chicken curry. Maybe you have a different idea of what a chicken curry is, like your favorite chicken curry recipe. Let me know in the comments below, or visit my Facebook or Instagram page and you can send a picture if you want to. And yeah, we are finishing now with the workshop. So thank you very much for attending. I hope you will enjoy your curry. I'm just gonna check if there are like any other questions before I go. There's just one question about my YouTube name. So if you type in My Health Target, you will see my channel popping up. You can see here in the corner as well my logo and the name. So yeah, visit my Instagram or my Facebook or YouTube channel if you want to find out more, and leave any comments below or click a like or follow the YCA page as well if you want to follow along. So once again, this Saturday, I'm gonna do my snack and beverage recipes again. So Saturday at 12 o'clock, I will put the link on the Facebook page of YCA Sandwell, and probably Amina will share it on her Let's Talk Hope page too. So I hope I see you there as well. And thanks again for joining. Take care.